the January Macon County Board of Commission. I'd like to say welcome to everyone tonight, and I see many candidates and a lot of public, so thank you guys for being out here tonight. How about this January? You know, it was 60 degrees last week, then it dumped 6 inches of rain, then we're freezing, and then snow towards the end of this week potentially, so here it is. Let's get right into it. Miss Tammy, can you start us off with announcements?
Sure, yes, sir. So first of all, I would like to introduce Ms. Kimberly Dills, who is our new Consolidated Human Services Agency Director. And I know some of you met her yesterday morning at her welcome, but she is here with us tonight, so welcome, Ms. Dills. And then secondly, just a reminder that Monday is a holiday and county offices will be closed.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Mr. Cabe?
So I just want to make an announcement. If you remember our last meeting, we applied for some infrastructure and resiliency grant money for some recreation projects. And I'm pleased to announce that we were awarded most of that money. We did receive $1,123,315 and some change to accomplish those 4 different projects that we laid out, which includes some stuff there at the Tassie Shelter, Arthur Drake Boardwalk area, Colasaja Park, and the Parker Meadows out there. So that was a really good bit of information we got right back before Christmas. And we'll start that process. The budget amendment's in your packet. We'll start that process very quickly to work on those projects.
All right. Commissioner Breeden?
Yeah, well, it's great seeing everybody out here. It's nice to have an almost full room. Also would like to welcome Ms. Dills. It's been fun getting to know you, and I think we've got a great asset here in the county. I also want to give a shout out to Ms. Tammy Keyser for doing all the work in the interim. She's done a great job. It's been a pleasure. So still work to do, but just wanted to give her a shout out. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you. Great point. Commissioner Antoine?
Oh, welcome everyone, and Happy New Year.
I'd like to give a brief update. Mr. Cabe, myself, and some engineering folks with McGill met about the pickleball courts. And I know it's been a long time coming, but the concept was incredible. They've taken all of our criticisms and, listen, with something to be proud of. So we're trying to expedite some of the, a little more of the diligence and some of the testing and some of the engineering samples. And we're still hoping for a summertime arrival, but, weather permitting. So, Commissioner Shields?
Welcome, everybody. I've seen some people's picture in the paper. Glad you're here. Appreciate the quality that you're bringing to this arena.
Commissioner Sherrill?
I'd like to second that with Commissioner Breeden. Welcome, Ms. Dills. Thank you for coming in. And Ms. Tammy, thank you for all the hard work. It's been a very big challenge for you in the county, and I think we're on the right path for excellence and welcome all the candidates for the running for office, Sheriff. All you guys, thank you for signing up to run, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Ms. Leopard? Council? All right. This time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Shields to lead us in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand if can. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Commissioner Shields.
My pleasure.
All right, we have no public hearings. Any additions to the agenda? All right. Hearing none, let's open the public comment period. Thank you, Sheriff. All right. Betsy Baste.
Good evening, gentlemen. Ma'am. I want to thank you for allowing us to speak, and I am going to welcome Kimberly Dills and hope that my sincerest wish is that we have full transparency with the health department now, particularly with animal services, which is where my concern is. I've heard so many stories and rumors and things going around, and I would like to request that the volunteers at the shelter are heard. They have given in the last year over 2,000 hours of their work time selflessly to help the county because they care about the animals and they care about the department. And that's not anywhere near what the money that we have put in. There are two organizations that are working hard as nonprofits at the shelter. One is the Yogi Project. Yogi, did I get it right? Yogi Project, which is to help with medical expenses. And we have raised money for that. And then Positive Shelter Volunteers have had many, many adoption days in working towards the goals of the shelter. And it feels like there hasn't been transparency nor partnership with the people who are there every day working to help the workers from the administration. And so we would very much like to have some communication and some conversation and working towards shared goals, because I believe we have the same shared goals, and not to be ignored. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bates.
Thank you, Ms. Baste. All right, how about Miss Carroll? If you don't mind, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Carol Kitzner. I'm a resident of Cartooga. I've been coming to your meetings for about a year, and unless I missed something, I have not heard any update from the county commissioners about the Cartooga landfill. So trash and garbage is my subject. It's ridiculous how much we put into the bins and how the trucks have to try to maneuver our large trucks from the dump, I'd call it, I guess the landfill, how they have to try to maneuver around that property to pick up the trash and to get out of there safely and not hit all the little old people in our cars trying to go through the dump. So we'd just like somebody to give us an update on when the new one out at the old elementary school is going to be finished. I haven't seen any activity there in ages. And that's all I have to say. Please.
Brief update.
I can actually, that was part of my item 11C.
Okay.
Oh.
That'll be part of that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Heather Dombrowski.
Hey, guys. The FRL interlocal agreement. Here we are again. Let me start by saying I do believe you guys signed that 10-year agreement in good faith, and we thank you for that. But it does appear, based on Jackson County's actions in the last 6 months, that perhaps they did not sign it in good faith. A couple of points I want to make regarding these amendments. The first being the dual role of the regional director. As I'm sure you know, that currently the Jackson County head librarian is currently also serving as the Fontana Regional Library Director. It is my understanding she is being paid for one of those roles. So that amendment would involve added cost to the FRL. Also, the requirement that a commissioner sit on the FRL board. I feel like that's redundant. At the signing of the last agreement, less than a year ago, the change was made that you all select your representative for the FRL board. I I'm curious as to Jackson County's motives in proposing these amendments. I worry that they are perhaps still not acting in good faith. My request, as I've stated before, I'm not asking you all to go and tell our neighbors up the road how to run their county. But I'm hopeful that maybe some productive conversations between you all and your Jackson County counterparts can happen. Frankly, I feel like their recent actions, the library board members that they've elected, the FRL members that they have appointed, have already wreaked havoc on the FRL administratively. And let's face it, if that ship sinks, I'm afraid you all will be tasked with running a library, all of the costs that that entails, and the liability that would come along with it. I don't think, and I hope that we don't just sit back and wait and see what Jackson County does, because I think that would affect us greatly. It's in our best interest that FRL stay intact. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. All right, Heather Johnson.
Hey, my name's Heather Johnson. I'm from Otto. Just wanted to reiterate also on what Heather was just saying. We've just lost one of the librarians. The librarian in Cashiers just quit. She was a classmate of mine. I went to high school and middle school with her. She went to Western. She was happy to be working in her hometown. And she's been harassed so much and been called a groomer and a Cindy Richards. It was Cindy Richards. Is she a groomer or a pedophile? I mean,
Super kid.
probably not, you know? But she's been called that consistently at her place of work. She's been completely harassed by people up in Cashiers in Jackson County, and it's ridiculous. She just resigned. I believe she's speaking at the FRL meeting tonight, and it's just really sad. It's really sad when hometown kids can't get a job they love in a degree program that they have a master's degree in and keep it because of people being ugly over nonsense. And the nonsense is last summer, the Jackson County Commissioners voted to remove the Jackson County Public Library from the regional system because of their repeated attempts to restrict access to the library materials. It continually failed due to public outcry and the law, state law and federal law. So I'm confused as to why a body that does not plan to remain in the system is continually sending us these requests. But, you know, I have an idea, as Heather kind of said. The changes they're wanting to make are only so that they can stay in the system and save face. They want to restrict access. They cannot stand Tracy Fitzmaurice because she will not let them break the law. So they got to get her out of there. This agreement has been discussed ad nauseum, as y'all remember, for I don't know how long. Y'all agreed to it. Swain and Jackson agreed to it, so we thought we were all good. You said on February 11th, I'm good with this. I'm paraphrasing, but you said you considered the matter settled. You had made a good faith agreement. Y'all had signed a good faith agreement, and here it is again. I just wonder what has changed. The only thing I can think of is it's some kind of hinkiness in Jackson County. When you look at the changes, the one she said about the commissioners, I hope that the public will go into the agenda handout portion and read it. I'm not going to read it to everybody because I'd have to look it up on my phone. But how is it going to work if the county commissioners have to be at a meeting at 4 o'clock on the same day as they have this meeting at 6? By every other month, the FRL meeting is on the same day as the Macon County Board of Commissioners meeting. The liaisons already have a hard time getting to the meetings, it sounds like sometimes, due to that being an issue. That's not going to make it any easier. So then that would necessitate moving meetings around and changing the times. And there already maybe needs to be changes made so more people can come, but I don't know that it's going to be very efficient to make that change so that y'all can be on the board, especially when the county commissioners, due to the changes made in the agreement, can already appoint those library board members. So y'all already have control over the library board. How much more control do we need to give? How many more times do we need to do this? It just does not feel like it's being done in good faith. It feels like it's being done to restrict access to materials. Jackson County folks in their political groups and on their board have already been caught making this list of books they find inappropriate in the library. I know from talking to people that go to the library and work in the library, there's a whole bunch of mamas that go in there hunting for inappropriate books to make a list. That list ended up rearing its ugly head on an Adobe document that everybody saw. Julie of the Wolves is on this list. Have y'all read Julie of the Wolves? I encourage you to do it. It's a really nice story. It's not particularly inappropriate.
Let me let you make a final statement right here. I hate to rush you along, but
That's all right. That's pretty much it. I think y'all know where I'm going with this. You've heard it ad nauseum for 4 years.
we're going to have a lot of discussion here in just a few minutes about the library.
Okay,
So stick around.
heard. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank All right. Wraps up public comment. All right, any further adjustments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we remove budget amendment number 158 from your consent agenda and replace it with a copy of the budget amendment, also numerically numbered 158 that I handed out to you. And it also includes the capital project ordinance for the funds that I announced earlier there. We basically are setting those aside in individual funds so that they match the grants that come in. So that's the reason for that. The dollar figure stays the same.
All right, thank you. Any more? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Hear a motion by Commissioner Breeden. Second by Commissioner Shields. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right arm and state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? 5-0. All right. Reports and presentations. We have Martin Starnes and Associates on the fiscal year 25 audit.
Good evening. My name is Val Tao, and I'm from Martin Starnes and Associates. I will be presenting the fiscal year 2025 audit financial statements. The audit has been submitted and approved by the Local Government Commission. I will begin by going over some audit highlights. We issued an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion or clean opinion is issued when an auditor can state without reservation that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respect and conformity with GAAP. There was an increase of $455,000 in the general fund balance, or 0.8%. There was a decrease of $430,000 in the solid waste net position. This slide shows the total fund balance in the general fund. The total fund balance increased by $455,000. The increase in fund balance over prior year is 0.8%. The total revenue exceeded expenditures by $11 million. But after other financing sources in use, this left general fund with an increase in fund balance of $455,000. This slide shows the fund balance position in the general fund. The available fund balance is the calculation utilized as the basis for comparing you to other units in calculating your fund balance percentage. Non-spendable includes inventory in the amount of $12,000, prepaids $637,000, notes receivable $5,000, and leases of $7,000. The increase in available fund balance from prior year is due to increase in the total fund balance. This slide shows the available fund balance. In 2024, it was 85.62%, and in 2025, it was 95.89%. This slide shows the general fund summary. The revenue increased by 5%, about $3.4 million from prior year, increased mainly in restricted intergovernmental revenues and miscellaneous revenues. Expenditures decreased by 1.2%, about $737,000 from prior year, decreased mainly in transportation. This slide shows the top three revenue in the general fund. Total revenue is $70.9 million. The top three comprise of $60.3 million, or about 85% of total revenues. Top three revenue sources are ad valorem taxes at 51%, restricted intergovernmental at 14%, local option sales tax at 20%. We'll discuss the top three revenues in the next few slides. This slide shows the ad valorem tax revenue. Ad valorem tax increased by $686,000 or 1.9%, and it is comparable to prior year. This slide shows the restricted intergovernmental revenue. It increased by $1.3 million or 14.2%. Increase is due to receiving the 2-year Medicaid cost settlement fund in fiscal '25. This slide shows the local option sales tax revenue. It increased by $24,000 or 0.2%, and this is comparable to prior year. This slide shows the top three expenditures in the general fund. Total expenditure is $60 million. The top three comprise of $43 million or 73% of total expenditures. The top three expenditures: public safety at 33%, human services at 20%, education at 20%. This slide shows the public safety expenditures. It increased by $717,000 or 3.8%, and this is comparable to prior year. This slide shows the human service expenditures. It decreased by $491,000 or 3.9%, and is comparable to prior year. This slide shows the education expenditures. It increased by $392,000 or 3.4%, and is comparable to prior year. Oh, thank you. This slide shows the enterprise fund solid waste. GAAP net income decreased over prior year. Cash basis net income increased over prior year. Unrestricted net position decreased over prior year. Please note that cash basis net income does not include items such as depreciation, changes in post-closure costs, and other post-employment benefits, but does include capital outlay and debt service payments. Current year is higher than prior year due to increase in operating revenues in the current year. GAAP net income decreased mainly due to increase in the landfill, closure and post-closure care costs. This is related to the full accrual adjustment of the liability. Cash flows from operation increased due to increase in revenues received. Unrestricted net position decreased due to increase in the net investment in capital assets. We tested 4 major programs that are shown above. There was a Medicaid finding 2025-001. There was a significant deficiency related to eligibility compliance requirement. Participant had moved out of the state and was not eligible to receive receive benefits. Other 3 programs reported were no findings. This slide shows the performance indicators. As discussed earlier, the county's general fund balance available include the debt service fund. Balance for fiscal '25 was 95.89%, which is above the minimum of 20% and the average similar units of 39%. The county has a stable property tax calculation percentage at 98.5%. The county did not have any negative performance indicator. This concludes my audit presentation. Thank you for allowing us to continue as your auditor. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank
Very well
you.
done.
We went from a tier 2 to a tier 3. What are the factors that changes that?
Most of that has to do with your median income that the Department of Commerce calculates those tiers off of, and then your general growth in your population. So that's not necessarily related to the information that she has. It's close, but it's not directly related. And Mr. Chairman, I'll add a couple of things to her presentation. Obviously, we're about a month later than normal for the audit process, but it took a while for the local government commission. There were some issues that we had to work through back at the end of the fiscal year to go through the audit process. And then, of course, we had to send it to them, get it approved. So that's the reason we're about 30 days behind where we normally would be. That was on the front end of the process, submitting the information, LGC telling us what to look for and go through the process. My suggestion would be, based on, obviously, this information will be available on the webpage, look at the information that's in there. We could either have a special meeting, or we could do it at the February meeting, at least have basically a mid-year discussion on our budget and where we're at, and then kind of get our priorities set, because we're going to start the budget process in February for the upcoming fiscal year. So we need to have that conversation fairly early. A couple of points based on the information that she had there. You saw that the general fund increased $455,000 and some change. That's still a significant amount of money, but that's also a big difference from the $3 million or so that we did a year before. However, I'm also pretty pleased with that. That's not an insignificant amount of money, but you all also need to remember that we have had several projects that we have paid for out of fund balance, including roughly a $10 million renovation expansion to Highland School that came out of fund balance, $500,000-ish expenditure for the library renovation out there. So you've done a lot of work out of that fund balance, still managed to keep it on the positive side. We're still not dipping. We're still good on the dollar figure that's there. Still kept your tax rate the same and accomplished all that at the same time. So that's a pretty significant achievement for the board, and financially, it's a very stable process that you've entertained there. I'll also address you saw the deficiency on the solid waste enterprise fund. That partially answers part of the Carson question, but if you remember when we did the financing package for the new landfill sale, we had already expended a significant chunk of money on that sale on the stuff up front, $578,000 somewhere in there and some change that we'd already expended out of that fund balance. So that's why you see that big decrease in there. But now next year when we come back, we will have reimbursed ourselves that money, and that will allow us, that's the money that we need to use to do the Carson Center, and then we're going to talk about some grant opportunities there as well. So we were trying to make sure our cash flow was good on that, make sure our numbers looked good, and we had the financials to handle that before we got terribly deep in that project. But I will have some more information on that.
I've got a comment. You know, right after COVID, it seems like everything kind of spiked, very, very quickly. And I'd almost like to see a chart or a trend, from 10 years, because every budget, it's based on prior year, and they still keep climbing. Like once COVID got over with, it didn't go back to regular times. It just keeps elevating, and I wouldn't mind to see the trend, over the past 5 to 8 years.
Okay.
Can you provide that?
Lindsay?
Can you do that?
Okay.
I just think it'd be neat to kind of see, well, not necessarily, we'll just, again, sales tax, just revenues, yeah, okay.
And
Thank you.
I can talk, we can talk about this in the mid-year review, but, part of that was the growth that she mentioned there, the tax-based growth, the roughly 5% or whatever that number was there. So that helps partially with your revenue. We mentioned that back in the budget process last year, so that's where part of that is. Our sales tax, if you look at last year, we were basically flat. Not great, but the good thing was we were flat, because you had counties like Buncombe and Henderson and some of those other counties, because of Helene, they dipped. They would have been tickled to death to be flat. So I still think that says a lot for us, and our trends are looking positive this year on our sales tax revenue. So I think we're going to recover very well from that, which still says a lot about your economy, which goes into that tier ranking that you're talking about.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. All right. Moving on to old business. Update and discussion on Fontana Regional Library interlocal agreement. County Manager Cabe. Go ahead.
So I'll start, and then Eric may have to chime in. So we were approached, obviously, back in the fall about considering some amendments to the FRL bylaws. Jackson County proposed the amendments and have subsequently gone through the process. Jackson County has approved essentially the three amendments or changes to the FRL agreement. Swain County has approved those. FRL board is actually meeting tonight. They met at 4 today, so I'm sure they were going to discuss that tonight, but I don't have any update from them. And essentially, the amendments that are summarized in your agenda packet, one of the amendments had to do with the fact that the regional director also couldn't be a director of a county library. One of the amendments had to do with some financial accounting, that any funds that had been contributed to the library that were unused at the end of the year be returned back to the county that put the funds in there. And then, of course, there was another amendment that had to do with one of the 9 members of the FRL board, one of those members be a sitting county commissioner from each of the 3 counties. So that's the summary of the amendments that Jackson County initiated and have been proposed and approved by those other 2 counties and for your consideration. And Eric, have I missed anything or anything else I need to add at the moment?
Not that I'm aware of. There was the 3, according to the rules, it does require a unanimous vote in order to revise them, so I don't know if anyone knows what happened with your board, or I'm sorry, with the So, along those lines then, I think they approved all 3. Norton pointed out that it might be that board members might be in favor of one amendment but not another, and so he suggested that we vote each different amendment separately, and then vote it up or vote it down. Send it back to Jackson. I think because Jackson and Swain have already approved all 3, that doesn't necessarily mean that you all have to approve all 3. You can approve 1 or 2 or none or whatever you want on that.
Thank you. Any comments?
So in order for this agreement to change, there's 2 of 3 counties already approved these changes. Does the majority rule, or do we, do we have to go along with them? I understand what you're saying, but it being one body, the 2 counties said, yes, this is what we want. If we say, no, we don't want that, what happens?
Eric, I believe, if I read that correctly, all 3 counties have to agree on the amendments. So therefore, if you, let's say that out of the 3, you approve 2 of those, then I think it would have to go back to those other counties to reconsider their decision without the whatever provision you didn't include. But if I understand it correctly, Eric, all 3 counties do have to agree for the amendments to become effective.
It came up in previous, and I was going to find the language that it required all parties to sign this agreement. And Fontana Regional Library was a party to that original agreement, and they might likewise have to agree if they can find out. And
we were aware, I spoke to Bill McGaha when he actually talked to me about some of this, and he was aware the meeting tonight was going to be fairly lengthy with FRL, so that's probably the reason that we haven't heard any comment of
Under
it.
7A, this agreement may be amended providing that all parties accept and agree to those amendments. So even the Fontana Regional Library Board could still check 1 or 2 or 3 yes and nay as well.
So Fontana has to be in agreement as well?
That's what the terms of the agreement say.
Abby, I think last month we talked about the meetings, the times of the meetings. Has that been adjusted? Because, you're still having a meeting right now at the same time as us.
For that to It has not been changed as of yet. I think the board was waiting to see if it was going to pass, I guess. But it can be changed. They can change it, the meetings to a different day.
I mean, the only thing I see that's a conflict for any sitting county commissioner that's on that board, for those meetings to be happening at the same time, and I was under the impression that would have been adjusted. So I don't see like that can be okayed unless we know for sure that those meetings are not going to conflict.
Well, and along those lines, it just says that each county can appoint 3 board members. I don't think there's any. Right now, I think that each county could already appoint a commissioner if they felt like it, as far as that goes. So, sometimes we need to, the board has found it helpful to appoint a board member to the health department or whatever, are needed. So that still gives you the flexibility. This change would require that a board member serve. I don't know if, I guess I didn't talk to anybody from Jackson County as to the reason behind why it was mandatory, as opposed to if they wanted a board member, they didn't just appoint one.
Well, I've got to change some of my questions here, but are we for certain that the director of Fontana Regional Library and the librarian of Jackson County is not paid additionally for those 2 dual roles in that position? In other words, are the librarians all across the 3 counties paid equally, including the director? Is she on the same pay scale as the other librarians? Or is her pay scale increased due to the fact that she is the director of the Fontana Regional Library System?
Please address the mic. Come on. Yeah. Sorry to do that to you, but everybody at home can hear you.
Hey, everybody. So the way that the librarian's scale works is each county librarian has a librarian salary. They're either a grade 1 or a grade 2. And that's based on how many libraries are in your county and things like that. And then I would like to preface by saying having a single person be a director and a county librarian was not always the case. It was started, I think, around 20 years ago based on financial concerns. It was never an ideal choice. It was just what we had to do to keep the position filled. This is way before my time. But the director does receive an additional stipend. So you get the base county, and then the person who is the director gets an additional stipend to do basically 2 jobs for 1.5 salaries.
For 60 hours, what is the requirement?
No, it's still 40 hours.
Yeah, well, see, that's right. So that would be like the county manager working as the manager in his normal schedule, and him taking the role of the director of EMS, and in the same time frame making additional funds. So you're providing work for a fraction of each, but you're getting additional salary. So I have a problem with that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, and it was never, and I'm fairly certain the director would also agree with you, that it was never an ideal situation.
Right.
And that is particularly a stipulation on the agreement that we're in favor of. That's fine. If we can make it work, we will love to make that work.
So then it brings up the next question. If a librarian and a director of FRL can operate both positions in a 40-hour week, why do we need one or the other? Why do we need a director, or why do we need that librarian? Because it seems to me like one of the positions has got to go, because you're paying one person 1.5% for doing 40 hours. So it don't make any sense to.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think that the job is currently getting done in 40 hours. I think it's getting done in more than 40 hours. So I think think if have no objection or advice as far as that parameter of the, or change to the interlocal agreement. So.
Okay, let me see if there was, and you answered the next question about, my question was, how did we get to the point that one individual was doing? So you've answered that one. I mean, you hear the term double dipping quite often, and it's almost like if you're getting 1.5 salaries for that's sort of like. Anyways,
I
that's
would
all.
argue that she's doing 2 jobs for 1.5
Yeah.
salaries.
That's all I have.
Stick around just a minute.
Okay.
There may be some more. Anybody got any more comments? Questions?
No, my only issue was just a conflict with the scheduling for county commissioner being on that board. Now, Eric, are you saying before this amendment, it was just optional? It was still there, but it was optional?
Which one?
What they're changing for the county commissioner, the requirement for a county commissioner to be on the board.
Right, okay, so they got the 3 different ones. The first one is that the county commissioner has to be one of the 3 appointees from Macon.
Right.
Right now, the language says each county shall have equal representation on the Fontana Regional Library Board of Trustees composed of 3 members from each county. All right, so you already have the authority to appoint those 3 commissioners to the Fontana Regional Library. In other words, it doesn't say, to my knowledge, and Abby, if there's something in our other library board bylaws that contradicts that, let me know. But I think we already voted to have the commissioners decide the Fontana Regional Library Board members, in addition to in addition to also having this board decide the Macon County Library Board. So it used to be, if you'll recall, the Fontana Regional Library Board members appointed from Macon County had to be a member of the Macon County Library Board. Now they don't. Now you guys can appoint any 3 people you want. They can be a member of the Fontana Regional Library Board or not. And we actually did that previously originally was it Mr. McGaha, where we appointed him as the Fontana Regional Library, but not on the Macon Library, right? Okay, so you could still do that same thing. So what I'm saying is under the current plan, you already have the authority to appoint a commissioner. So Jackson could likewise do the same thing, and maybe they didn't think about that, I don't know, but to make it so that each county is mandatory that a commissioner serve. Again, that's for you all to vote up or down, but I didn't understand the reason why it would have to be mandatory on all 3 counties. If they wanted to do it themselves, they could.
So my comment on that is really simple. I mean, as a liaison, I can't make it to the library meetings at this point because they're consistently conflicting, and I've made comments about it. It's not ever been changed. So it doesn't make sense to commit a county commissioner to that if they're not going to change that. What's the point of putting a county commissioner on there if you can't ever make the meetings? So that's my only conflict with that part.
Well, I'll try to move us forward. I feel like this has been messy for a long time now, and I feel like Jackson County, had showed intent to pull out, and we've kind of just tried to keep this thing together. So now we have an interlocal agreement that seems like everybody's going to stay in, everybody somewhat wins. So I was a little bit optimistic. The only real hesitation I have, I'll share Commissioner Shields' comments and concerns with the commissioner also being on the member. But I feel like, it's not perfect, but it kind of has everybody together, it stays together. And I think that's really where I'm at. I can support the first 2. I think personally, I'll kind of step away from the commissioner being on the board. I think we can appoint, if we need to appoint a commissioner, we can. If we don't want to appoint a commissioner, we don't have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. And at least we show a little good faith to keep the agreement together, and essentially that's what we want, right?
Sure.
Is to keep the 3 counties together in the library system. So, that's really where my heart's at. Any other comments? Barry?
I kind of agree with that too. I don't think it's necessary for us to have a commissioner on that board. Being honest, I think that's why we're appointing the people to be on the FRL. So I think if we voted for these separately, I don't know that I would support that one, but I think the other two are understandable and perfectly fine with me.
All right, well, let's discuss item 1. And I'm looking for a motion to,
Would you read item 1, John?
sure. All right.
And this is item 1 on your agenda, not as they appear in the actual agreement, right?
Let me just read the whole document right here, just so everybody, just what's on the record.
Okay.
So item 10A, Jackson County and Swain County have approved proposed changes to the interlocal agreement between Jackson, Swain, and Macon counties and the Fontana Regional Library. Excuse me. And would like for Macon County to consider such changes. The Fontana Regional Library Board will consider such changes at their January 13th meeting as well. Changes are underlined on the attachment and are specifically noted as. So I want to talk about item 1 at this point in time and potentially take action. The regional director shall devote full professional effort to the Fontana Regional Library and shall not simultaneously hold a director position or comparable executive role in any other participating county, library system, or library entity within the region. This time I'll take it. Go ahead.
Well, this regional director, will they need to have a pay increase for the regional director?
Well, we would need the funding for that, yes. I don't have any specifics on an amount. That would have to be determined by the FRL board on what the pay for the director would be, and then that would be allocated between the counties. But I don't have a figure on that. That's above my pay grade.
Thank you.
But I question if that position would need to be a full-time position. That's what I was getting at a few minutes ago with, is it doesn't seem like, without any information
Sure.
confirming how much time it takes for each role.
Yeah.
So I think that would be questionable as when we move forward.
I think that's a valid concern, and I think that that would probably have to be determined. I know that the FRL board has a personnel committee attached to the board, and that might be something that they would have to determine. Because I don't know.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the regional director be a standalone position, separate from any libraries in the system.
I hear a motion by Commissioner Breeden,
Second.
second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your right arm, stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Ms. Tammy, please let the record reflect 5-0. Is that clear? All right. Item 2. At the end of the year, upon completion of the audit and calculation of payables, any remaining funds in excess of operational costs will be reimbursed to the counties that allocated the funding in proportion to their respective contributions.
All right, can I make a motion now? All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept item 2 as is.
I hear a motion by Commissioner Antoine,
Second.
second by Commissioner Shields. Any further discussion?
Does anyone know what their fund balance is for the Fontana Regional Library?
I don't know off the top of my head, no.
It's a pretty large sum of money at this point. And my point of this is, not too long ago, we were talking about the pay for the folks in the library. And it seems to me like instead of taking the money that's provided for the library system and use those funds for the pay increase. You guys are not you, but the Fontana Regional Library made a big thing over, we need more money. Well, no, use the money that you have to help run the library. So that's,
I'm not an expert in government accounting. I don't think you can use fund balance to pay salaries.
well, you can't, but yeah. But in the budget process, you budget for those salaries
Yes.
and not just let it roll into something that you can spend at your leisure. Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm and state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? All right, please let the record reflect 5-0, unanimous. All right, and item 3, I'll entertain a motion.
I'm going to make a motion for number 3. I'd like to discuss this a little further if it gets a second.
I hear a motion by Commissioner Sherrill,
Second.
second by Commissioner Antoine. Further discussion.
The representation of a county commissioner, and the purpose of this is discussion, is I would like to see the library system change their dates regardless whether we go with this or not, so that it does not conflict with the county commission meetings. Because I know there are several people that attend these meetings that would love to attend the county commission meetings. Or maybe we would like to go sit in for these meetings and just listen, and we can't do it. And so I'd like to see that, that changed regardless.
Any other discussion?
But do you make this motion and move on before we can solve that question that you're talking about?
I think that would just be up to the FRL. That, you know,
Yeah,
I mean, I
we
think
can't
that's
solve it here.
that's the whole
Yeah.
point of us
Yeah.
appointing these people, you know, is to be able to talk to them and work through those issues and whatever that is. So if that's an issue, I think we need to bring that up to our representatives for the FRL and have them take it forward. And I think it is an issue because we can't attend those meetings.
Well, that's why I wanted
Yeah.
it on
No,
record,
I
was the
agree.
fact that I think my desire for this is to have it at a different time, different day, not on the meeting nights for us.
Well, let the record show I have made a lot of requests for that to be changed and it's still not happened. So for myself personally, I won't support this as is because it doesn't make sense.
Right, that's right.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right arm and stating aye for the record. Oppose? All right, Tammy, please let the record reflect. Motion fails, 1-4. All right. Hey,
you, Abby.
thanks for hanging around, Abby. All right. Old business, item B, consideration of amended resolution in support of revising the Macon County Board of Commissioners election system and to schedule a public hearing. Attorney Eric Ridenhour.
Okay, so in further discussion, we got some questions back from the staff at the legislature, asking, are you sure you want to do this, or do you want to go ahead and propose a plan now for the General Assembly to consider? And we still have time between now and, according to the staff member, they would like to have any amended resolution to them by March, so that it can be voted upon by the General Assembly at the April short session. She said that she was not aware of a resolution passed where the commissioners would later decide, but if we'd submit a plan, it would probably have a better chance of garnering support or at least consideration. So it's back before you. You still have time to amend the resolution if you want, and that's where we are.
All right. I'll open the floor to discussion.
Chairman, based on this, changing the process of electing county commissioners, as I stated before, the process here is unfair to District 1. Voters, citizens, and potential candidates for office, and also in District 3. If you run for office or if you live in District 2, you can seek office every 2 years. If you live in District 1 or District 3, you can seek office every 4 years. There's a case right now, which it's not that important, but there's someone in District 3 that would love to run for office, don't have the opportunity to because District 3 is taken care of. And so that person, by the time that the District 3 representative serves out, this person may be aged out to where they don't want to serve anymore. So it's not fair, and it's really not trying to gain anything on anybody. It's just trying to we're disenfranchised in 1 and 3. And it's not fair. I've had a lot of supporters in Highlands that question me about this. You have a better opportunity in Highlands or in District 1 to have multiple representatives than you do now. If it's not changed, you will never have the opportunity to potentially have 2 people in District 1 serving, the same way with District 3. And it's unfair. In the state law, it states that multiple member districts and single member districts are unconstitutional in the state of North Carolina. It has never been adjudicated in local government. So short of bringing a lawsuit and everything else through this is the cleanest and the easiest way to have this done. And I believe it's the right thing to do. And we had a vote on it in '23. We had a board change, and now the change in the board has approved it 4-1 at the last meeting. And just so you know, I was given the information by the School of Government that really in Raleigh, the legislators don't care what Macon County does as long as it's in the legal bounds of the law. But it was brought back by some legal team in Raleigh that we really should present this as the plan moving forward so that they know, we know, and I'm fine with that. I just thought maybe at the last meeting, if we could get to resolution, then we could hash it out on how we did this. But at this time, well, I'll let anybody else discuss it, but
I had one more comment, just because I think I got a general question as to, well, why don't the commissioners submit it to a general voter referendum, rather than, let the taxpayers decide, the voters decide at a referendum. And the problem with that, and this is, I got from Bob Joyce with the School of Government. Okay, first of all, you do have 2 different ways. You have the General Assembly, which is what we're attempting here via the local act. The second option is to submit for a voter referendum. However, under that statute, which is 153A-58, 3A, B, C, and D, you're limited on what the voters have to choose from. So in other words, under a voter referendum, you have the 4 choices, which is entirely at large, doing away with the districts altogether, and you've got 5 commissioners with no voting districts. The second one is true electoral voting districts, where only the people in each district can vote on the candidates from that district in both the primary and the general. The third choice that the voters would have would be electoral voting districts in the primary, where only the people in each district vote on the candidates from their district in the primary, but then a countywide vote on all candidates in the general election. And then the fourth one is the general residency voting, wherein candidates must reside in their district, but is a countywide vote for all candidates from all districts in both the primary and the general. So as far as having what at least has been discussed in 2023 and as again now, is if you wanted to still make sure you had representation of the 3 primary areas of Macon County, of Highlands, Franklin, and Nantahala, but then still allow people to run every 2 years, this is the forum by which that would work. Now, you all can do whatever you want, Obviously, if you want, you can go with one of the voter referendums. If you wanted to go with this, what is currently being discussed, then you'd have to go through the local act because that is not something that looks like it's available through voter referendum.
Thank you. Comments?
I mean, I can't really add much to what John said. I think that I agree with that. At the end of the day, we serve everybody in Macon County. It doesn't really matter where the lines are. I don't just get calls from people in Cowee and Burnetown and places like that. So I just think it's the fairest way to go about doing it. This has worked for this many years, I guess, but at this time, I think it's important for us to start looking at some of those changes. And I think having those, having the opportunity to run, whether you're in District 3 or 1 or whatever, every couple of years is, I think it's worth making a change. So I support it. I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think to have one seat per district and 2 at large makes it fair, for everyone, at that point. So, but I think it's important to understand too, as elected officials, any county commissioner, you take an oath to serve the whole county. It's not just your district. So I think that should be definitely clear on that. But I'll absolutely support this because it'll make it a lot more fair for everybody to get an opportunity.
And just changing the subject a little bit, but I think this board, and not trying to get any praises or anything like that, but I think we've served the county as a whole well. I mean, we've addressed issues in Nantahala, we've addressed issues in Highlands, we've addressed issues in Scaly Mountain, and Otto, they've got their fire department, everything else. So I think we don't look as members of the county commissioners, we don't look at, oh, well, that's Franklin or Highlands or whatever. We're doing it as a general county, and we're doing the best we can. You saw the financials. Financials are great. I don't know that many of you know exactly what has happened over the last 3 years in this county with the things that this board has accomplished with no tax increase. The list is extensive, and it's been all areas of this county. It's not been just Franklin we got the new high school, we've got new tracks, we're working on the rec park, we did the clock tower, we did the wastewater treatment facility in Nantahala, or we're in the process, broadband. It just goes and goes and goes. So we all have the whole county at heart. And so whether you, I'm not trying to gain any traction on anybody or anything because I believe in term limits. In November, I had served my 4-year term. If I'm lucky enough to be reelected, then I'll serve another 4 years. At the end of that 4 years, I think it's time for somebody else. So, it's not trying to gain anything. It's trying to bring fairness in to potential candidates and make the citizens and the taxpayers of Macon County treated equally, whether you're in District 1, District 2, District 3. And you've got the same opportunity every 2 years. So at this time, I would like to make a motion that we do a resolution, send it into the General Assembly, asking for a local bill to approve the redistricts of Macon County as 3 distinct districts and 2 at-large seats.
What year would it start in?
28.
28?
Second.
I hear a motion by Commissioner Sherrill, second by Commissioner Breeden. Let me give you a few of my thoughts right here. The way a lot of our local counties have their elections, it's mind-boggling to me. It's almost like every county's different. In one county, they'll have the high vote getter serve as chair, second high vote getter serve as vice chair, and I believe that's Graham County. I may be mistaken. Other counties, you campaign as chairman. You get elected as chairman. I believe that's Jackson County. And, they have regions and precincts and electorates. You think if it's broke, don't fix it. But if you really break it down, I do think it's broke. I really feel like I have the opportunity to run every 2 years. And if somebody lives 10 miles up the road from me, they have to wait every 4 years. But I feel like what I'd like to see is a very well thought out, a very detailed plan showing how the terms are going to be staggered. You know, there may be a period of time where some of our seats, you know, get elected for a 2-year term. And just throwing it out there, we could potentially have District 1, 2, and 3 have one seat in one election. 2 years, the other election is for 2 members at large, right? So every district has the opportunity to run every election cycle. But I think what I'd like to see is a very well thought out, a very detailed timeline on how this is going to work. And I think that's kind of where I'm hung up is, you know, the concept is great, but I'd like to see this on paper. Maybe we bring Melanie up from the Board of Elections and we really have a very detailed plan. I think that would really help me. But I do feel like it's the right move, and I do think it's fair.
Well, here's a timeline. In 28, your seat will be the first one at large. In 2030, the other District 2, you will have to declare in the 2030 election as to whether you're running for District 2 or you're running for the at-large seat. And if you decide to seek re-election in 2028, then you're going to run against everybody in the county. However, in your election cycle, you were voted on by everybody in the county anyways, and you won.
No. Well, I think that's the point I'm trying to make. So just thinking off the cuff here, if I have to pick which seat I'm running for, which the school board does, I know, I would rather have 2 at-large seats and the 2 high vote getters capture those seats. You know, if I decide to pick a certain seat, let's just say 4 candidates pick this seat and 2 pick this seat. You know what, to me, it's not calibrated. You know, if each seat, each area of the county is represented in one election cycle, the next election cycle, there's 2 members at large. And I feel like it's calibrated. And I've put a little bit of thought into it. But again, going back to the timeline, I'll support this motion, but I feel like we have a public hearing next month. You know, I feel like somebody, hopefully maybe yourself, can create a very detailed timeline with options that it's a good optic for the community to be able to see exactly how and exactly when.
Well, your staggering terms, that's how it's going to stagger. You're going to stagger your 2 at-large seats at 2 different election cycles.
Okay.
So.
I agree with Chairman. I mean, it really actually would help the public it'd be a good thing for the public to get to see it in detail.
Absolutely, and I don't know, I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of this. I've studied a lot, I've thought about it for years, and it definitely needs to be fair, it needs to be clean. The people in the general public needs to understand, and all that, and that would be the purpose of a public hearing, and I will try to get more in-depth and details of this, but your staggered terms would be your 28 election and your 30 election, and then every 2 years, anybody in the county would be able to run for office. So.
All right. So just for the record, will you clarify your motion?
My motion is to send a resolution into North Carolina General Assembly asking for a local bill to give us the approval to redistrict Macon County Board of Elections and the county commission process. And it be 3 districts and 2 at large, 3 distinct districts and 2 at large. The first at-large seat would be on the ballot in 2028.
And that motion was seconded by Commissioner Breeden. Listen, I'm a little bit caught off guard, and I'm sorry. That resolution is, I assume, what the public hearing is on next month. Am I right? Help me out, Eric.
So if you're going to schedule a public hearing, you'd have to have a motion for the public hearing before, in other if John's motion is to adopt this as is, if if you don't have to have a public hearing. If you wanted to have a public hearing on it, then you'd have to have a motion to hold a public hearing on it to vote on it at next month's meeting.
Well,
This is just to send it to the state to see if they'll even approve this, right?
No.
Or this, what we
I'm saying,
want?
this is it. So what I'm
Okay.
saying is if you approve John's motion, then it's my understanding there wouldn't be a public hearing because it had already been approved by the board. So if you were going to have a public hearing, I think you'd have to have scheduled the public hearing for next month and vote on the issue next month. If you were going to vote on
But
John's
this
motion.
resolution to send to the state is just for them to approve that we're going to go 3-2 at larges, and it comes back and we have to vote on it again, or it's done?
No,
It's done.
that becomes the General Assembly Act. So that becomes a local bill, and it becomes law that this is what is going to happen. And then the commissioners at that point then would have to implement the plan by redrawing the three different districts so that there's equal population in each of, I don't know, say $15,000 or 15,000 people in each district, as opposed to the current where you'd have 3 times the population in the District 2 as you do in 1 and 3. So it's up to you all if you want to have a public hearing or not. If you want to have a public hearing, then John's motion, you'd have to put off till next month. If you didn't, you don't have to have a public hearing, totally your call. But if you wanted to go ahead and send it to the Assembly as it is, then you would vote in favor of John's motion now.
But I think if you have a public hearing, you're letting the public know that you're interested in what they have to say. And I think that's a good thing. So, but if you've got a motion on the floor, then
we have a motion and a second on the floor.
There is a second.
Yeah, Mr. Breeden, second the motion.
Well, and my biggie is like the term that you always use. I want to measure twice and cut once. I wanted an approval of this resolution to send to our state leaders to make sure this is what they're asking for, without being a delay any further in this action. And I want to make sure that they know that this is what we are seeking and make sure they're okay with it. So when they go down and present, it has to go through the Rules Committee and to do a local bill to get it on the floor. And the time is great, but I'm just trying to get it to where at the next, and I could probably,
So if we held a public hearing next month, did you say that it has to be turned in by March?
Has to be turned in by, whatever resolution you pass has to be turned in by March so they can send it to their bill drafting staff, and then it would be voted on by the General Assembly in April.
I think we should give the public an opportunity to voice yea or nay.
Well, I just feel like a lot of the public doesn't really understand what we're talking about right here. I mean, we all do. We've all, ran for office, but I'm looking for a very comprehensive timeline that shows exactly which seat, is up for election on which term and in what year. And I think I'd like to see that cycle. And again, I support the intent here. I mean, I would support a public hearing next month, and that's.
and at the, and
And
Josh.
I would be okay with a public hearing next month as well. I think, as long as it doesn't delay it, I mean, I'm not going to change my mind, but I think it is important to get the public input, but I also think it's important to take a look and maybe get with Melanie and find out like, hey, how can we actually implement this plan going forward? I mean, we've talked, about what you just brought up, the 2 at large at one time, or just keeping them on the same cycles and redrawing the lines, seems easy and fast. So, I mean, I would be perfectly fine either
If we
direction.
do a public
but
hearing, we
hearing,
can still
I think,
vote on the same day, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It wouldn't, so that it wouldn't delay it at that point. Because that would still put us ahead to where we can get it in by March, right?
That's what I was told.
Right, and it's really, we have time. But if we come in here next month and we have a resolution on the floor, and we have a public hearing on it, who's to say that the state representatives approves that? And they're not going to really look at this until they know that the board is all in favor of this resolution. So we're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I've studied it for years. I know it's unfair, and I know change is hard and change is scary. And this is the right thing to do. And once it's implemented, it's going to be a much greater, people are going to appreciate it a lot more once it's implemented. The time frame is your seat would be at large, 2030. You would declare what seat at that time. You're going to run for District 2 on the application to run for County Commissioner. I am seeking District 2. The other one, I am seeking at large. Anybody from Highlands, anybody from Nantahala, anybody from Otto, anybody from anywhere in the county can sign up for District 2 or the at-large seat. So the time frame is there, the timeline, it can't change. You're either going to run for your district, which you have to live in that district. If you're going to seek District 2, you have to live in that district. If you're running for at-large, you are going to go from anywhere in the county to run for that seat. There's no other timeline that can be displayed.
So what's the other seat at large?
The other seat at large?
It would be one of these two.
Yeah, it'd be one of these.
Okay. And they're on the same election cycle, so.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, really, my motion was to get this thing moving forward so that the two state representatives can look at it and get their blessings on it before we have a public hearing and on that particular.
But if this
I don't think you
is,
can,
when we
though.
were talking about it last month, it was to send this to the state to see if we could even get approved to do it. And then we could have a public
Yeah.
hearing if they approved it. Well, they didn't approve that. This resolution is gonna be what it is. So if we're gonna have a public hearing, it's not gonna be when they send it back, because then it's the bill. So I think we need to either say, we're not gonna have a public hearing, or we're gonna have one, and it's gonna be next month, and we'll vote on it next month, and we'll move forward. Because once they get it and they approve it, that's it.
Well,
That's what it is.
they
That's the
don't
plan.
have to do this.
I know.
I mean, they can,
But if they do, then we've taken the ability for the public to come up here and give us their thoughts on it.
yeah. Well, and I'm fine with it. I mean, it's,
Can we make a motion? at
I'll-
this
I'll-
time
I'm
for a public
I'm
hearing?
gonna call the question.
Okay.
Everybody good? We already have a motion on the floor.
Right, I got you.
well, I mean, and that's, okay, we got a second, but I can retract my motion. I mean, if that's, I lean towards letting the general public talk about this as well, but I just don't want the time frame to go away, so.
If he withdraws his motion, then we can make it available for the public to be able to come here next month to do that, and we can still vote at that point.
We need a
So-
motion for a public hearing next month.
But we have to do that before we can do the motion, so.
Yeah, He has to retract his
I'll,
motion.
at this time, Chairman, I would like to retract my motion that's on the floor.
Ms. Tammy? All right. Commissioner Sherrill retracts his motion.
Have to retract.
All right. Looking,
Then I make a motion, we have a public hearing on February the 10th.
all right. Have a motion by Commissioner Shields,
Second.
second by Commissioner Antoine. Any further discussion? This was a tough one. All in favor, please signify by raising your right arm, stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Eric,
Ms.
we
Tammy.
okay?
Let the record reflect 5-0. Thank you. All right, glad to cross that one off. New business. Discussion of the opioid funding process and establishment of a strategic planning committee. Manager Cabe.
So, Mr. Chairman, you remember, we did receive a $300,000 grant from Dogwood Health Trust that we announced, I believe it was last month, to set up our strategic plan and set our guidelines and facilitate some public input and get the process started to access the opioid funding that we've been receiving and will continue to receive. So tonight, it was going to be my recommendation that you, either by consensus or by vote, you appoint myself and one of the other commissioners to basically chair that committee, start putting some members together. I put a proposed membership list in your packet, which would include some clinical care providers, some field care providers, law enforcement. We also wanted some people that had been affected by opioid abuse. And of course, a representative from you all, and then there may be other folks. We wanted, the general discussion that I've had with some folks is put people on there because they will have to make decisions. And the reason you have to have this committee, number one, you have to come back with a plan for you all on how to spend this money, because there's a lot of different options, a lot of different categories you can spend those funds in. You do have to have a resolution presented to you all that y'all approve to match those priorities. There's some annual meetings you have to have. There's some public input you got to have. You got to facilitate those processes. You also have to have a financial report every year, and you have to have a strategic report every year to see if you're actually doing the things that you say you're going to do, which is why spending this money is much more difficult than just saying, hey, we're going to give so much money to somebody. There's a process to go through. We also want to be, in my opinion, be very careful. You don't want people necessarily making decisions on the direction we go that are going to be using the funds. You want people that can give you direction and help you get there, but you want to make sure that the people that are approving how we spend the money are not necessarily people that are going to get the money either. So we have to be very careful how we do that. So it's going to be my suggestion that you allow me and one of your other board members to establish that committee, get that started, and then hopefully we can come back to you fairly quickly with a plan going forward. And I will give the board an update. You know, it is a significant amount of money that we do have in that fund, but it's also limited when you start looking at the options you can spend this on. Right now, we have $2,078,000 and some change sitting in that opioid fund that also has to be a special designated fund. So that is a lot of money. However, when you start looking at the need out there in different agencies that could help, that's also not going to go very far. So we have to be very strategic about that. So my request would be for you to point the finger at me and tell me to establish a committee and another commissioner that might be willing to
I'd like to make a
sit on
motion
that committee.
to appoint Mr. Cabe and Mr. Breeden to the strategic plan.
I was thinking the same thing.
I second that.
Motion by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Shields. Sorry, Barry. Any further discussion?
Well, he changed his mind, no.
All in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Tammy, 5-0. Thank you. All right. Approval of Consolidated Human Services Agency Board Policies. Tammy Keisha.
So in your packet, you had, I think, 3 policies that were the Board of Health policies, 3 of the Board of Health policies. And we took those 3 policies and just changed the wording to reflect that it's now a Consolidated Human Services Agency Board, and changed the title that was in the previous policies from Health Director to Consolidated Human Services Agency Director, and made the change that that position now reports to the county manager and has oversight by both the manager and the Consolidated Board. So that's the changes that were made, and so those policies need to be approved by both this board and the Consolidated Board.
Thank you. I see the Chairman Higdon in here tonight. Any comments, Chairman? All right, thanks for being here. All right, gentlemen, do we need, can we make one motion, cover all 3, or do we need independent motions?
I think you can do it in one motion.
All right.
Would like to make a motion that we approve the policy changes as presented.
All right, here a motion by Commissioner Breeden,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sherrill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right arm and state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Tammy, 5-0, thank you. All right. Helene Recovery Recycling Infrastructure Grant. Mr. Cabe.
So, Mr. Chairman, tonight I'd like for your approval to submit this grant application for the Helene Recovery Recycling Infrastructure Grant. It's designed specifically from DEQ for solid waste enterprises, has a focus on recycling. It was specially appropriated by legislature for Helene impacted counties, and obviously we weren't impacted as much with Helene as some other counties, but it's also designed to build resiliency, which is where we're headed for, and to actually boost our recycling effort. So tonight, you have an application in front of you for a total of $2,995,500. Part of that, $601,500, is actually for the Carson Convenience Center, which will go along with the funds that we've also have in our fund balance. We've actually already purchased some of the cans for out there, the dumpsters for out there. We're also looking at some options. Originally, the intent was to put that convenience center toward the back there, closest to Parker Meadows. We're looking to see about an option, if we can move it more toward the up front, where, number one, it's a little closer, but it's not as visible from the highway. And then that property in the back, there may be some recreation uses that we can tie into that, so we're trying to tie all that together. But we wanted to make that a model recycling center, so that's the other reason these funds will help us get there. The other monies, the other $2.3 million, would be some improvements to the recycling building, a new baler here, some new equipment, which will really take a load off of us, because we were talking about revenues last month on the enterprise fund. That's a significant amount of money for us that we can do a lot of things with without having to adjust those fees anywhere. We already have a letter of support for Representative Gillespie. Senator Corbin's also going to write us a letter for that. We were very successful on the rec grant that we put in last month, so I anticipate us hopefully being very successful for this one. So I'd just like request approval to submit that application.
All right. Gentlemen, you heard the man. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Antoine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Breeden. Any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Ms. Tammy, 5-0. All right, and that's going to wrap it up. Discussion regarding personnel matters. Sheriff Brent Holbrooks.
Gentlemen, ladies, I do have a personnel matter, but it's not what folks are thinking. I've got a proposal here to hand out for y'all. The pay grade adjustment proposal.
Sheriff.
It's in black and white.
That color, right?
Gentlemen, at the end of the day, it's my job to get out here and lobby for the employees at the sheriff's office. With that being said, the Macon County Sheriff's Office respectfully proposes adjustments to our current pay grades within the MUNIS system to bring our compensation structure in line with comparable law enforcement agencies across western North Carolina. These agencies are comparable to ours, and most are the strongest competitors, drawing in from the same limited pool of qualified applicants. In order to attract and retain top law enforcement professionals, our pay structure must remain competitive and equitable. Our analysis of 5 comparable agencies, Transylvania Sheriff's Office, Franklin Police Department, Highlands Police Department, Swain, and Jackson County Sheriff's Office, show that Macon County is significantly behind in compensation. For example, Jackson County pays both deputies and detention officers equally, with a starting salary of $42,338. In Transylvania County, detention officers start at $42,494, while deputies begin at $44,636. Macon County Sheriff's Office deputies start at $40,460, and detention officers at $36,699, which, yes, sir. While some pay ranges in Jackson County may initially appear lower than ours, that agency grants full credit for every year of prior service to all positions. In contrast, Macon County only provides approximately half credit for years of service, creating notable pay disparities among employees with similar tenure and responsibilities. We have also been informed by a member of Franklin Town Council that they are in discussions of giving full credit of for years of service in the upcoming budget. Additionally, there appears to be some inconsistencies in how service credit is applied within our agency. For instance, one employee with 28 years of service is credited with only 15 steps, while another with 20 years of service is only 13 steps. These examples represent a broader pattern within the sheriff's office where step placement and service recognition have not been applied. This inconsistency affects employee morale and further widens the gap between our agency and comparable jurisdictions. So here's the proposal. We propose advancing deputy pay grades by one level in order to be comparable and competitive with other agencies and elevate detention officers to the current deputy pay grade held by their sworn counterparts. Setting detention officer pay at the same level is something that should have been done in the prior countywide pay study, not under my supervision since I've been sheriff. Detention officer positions are just as difficult and demanding as their sworn counterparts. This change reflects the critical responsibilities, professionalism, and risks shared across these positions. Current detention officers are 2 pay grades lower than a deputy. Additionally, civilian and non-sworn employees would advance by 1 pay grade to maintain fairness and consistency throughout the agency. These adjustments are not simply about increasing pay. They are a strategic investment in long-term stability, morale, and performance of the sheriff's office. Competitive compensation ensures that the Macon County Sheriff's Office can continue to attract dedicated public servants, reduce costly turnover, and provide the highest standard of service and safety to the citizens of Macon County. Macon County invests a significant amount of money in new employees, and this investment continues as the employee's career progresses. We don't want the citizens of Macon County to lose out on their investment due to employees leaving Macon County to go to other agencies. Outlined below, as you can see on the graphs, are the current proposed pay grades for each position as well as proposed new salaries. Item A lists the existing pay structure, while item B presents the proposed revisions designed to strengthen our agency's competitiveness and commitment to excellence. Now, I know you're going to have a lot of questions, so I brought Jonathan and Adam along with me as well. I don't see Derek here. I don't see Derek Jones, but us four, we've been working hard on this. We basically did our own pay study in-house, and we've got all this information from these other agencies. Now, I know we're halfway through the budget, and this is going to be costly. But with that being said, since we're halfway through, we do have some extra monies from salaries, FICA, overtime, et cetera, that we can put towards this to put this in action. And do you have roughly, Jonathan, kind of what it would cost?
About $185,000 where we're at, because until the pay period that we're getting paid on Friday, that'll change the numbers, but right now, we should be at 13 pay periods, which is roughly 50% of what the salary costs are. So a lot of this money would come from positions that we're currently short. You know, we just recently hired our last position for the road patrol. A young man we're sending to BLET, so he's the last open position we had on the road. Currently, we have 4 positions open in the detention facility. Every time we get close, we have people that leave. A lot of it's not because of morale or the work environment. A lot has to do with pay or better opportunities. Both these young people just left us, one to take a job as a pastor, the other to go to nursing. So if when you're making $17 and some change an hour, it's tough to fund those. So we feel like the pay should have been set at an equal rate initially. I know, Sheriff Holland and Warren Cave and some of the ones were involved in that. And take, for instance, a dispatcher. A dispatcher, works the same 12-hour shift as we. They work in public safety, but they're at the same pay grade as a deputy. So the detention officers, in my opinion, they have one of the hardest jobs in the county. And they're 2 pay grades lower, $17 and something an hour. And when you take out $800 or $700 and something for family insurance, I don't know how most of them make it. So we'd like them, put at their equal counterparts. So, we thought about this a few years ago, going to the job fairs, Buncombe County and some of the other ones we saw were doing that first, as far as paying them more, because they don't have a lot of the benefits, the detention, that the deputies do. They don't get law enforcement retirement, they don't get a take-home car, they don't get the 401k that the law enforcement, and all these things are set by general statute in North Carolina, not locally by ours, but they're set on the state level. So the detention, like, for years when I was on patrol, I worked, I don't know how many Christmases, I could swing by my house and say hi to my kids and have a meal. The detention, they don't get to do that, so we feel like their job is just as important. In a lot of ways, it's tougher. The liability in the jail is just as high, if not more, than a lot of our other positions, so we feel like they should have equal pay. And that's why we're looking at raising them up. So if we do this, we raise the deputies 1 pay grade, it will be 3 for the detention, to get them on the same level. The way we did it with the pay grades, we found ones that are comparable to most of the agencies. Of course, we can't compete with Highlands. Their starting pay is $47,000 a year, but Franklin PD is right at 42. So we feel like that's a threshold for our starting pay. That way we compare to most of the agencies, and that's why we're looking at a pay grade 27 for deputies in detention, which is right at that 42,000. I'm sure y'all are familiar with the grades, and each grade is a 5% increase, at the starting level of the county. So we wanted to work within the pay grades that were already established with the county. Makes it easier for Tammy and Lindsay and all to work within that. And so we looked at these in comparison to other counties, and that's where we feel comfortable with moving to these pay grades.
Would it, Lindsay?
Would it what?
Make it easier?
I mean, this,
Oh,
I mean,
I'm waiting on you.
no, I mean, I can't, I mean, this is the first I've seen this, so I don't know, to vet the numbers. I'm not sure. I do think there's probably ways that HR and finance could work through looking at pay grades and advancing them through, but, I mean, I guess we need direction from the board.
So, it's hard to talk about this without anybody thinking, or everybody thinking that you're against them. But I will tell you to start out with, I am grateful for all emergency services. And there's not enough money in the world for me to put a badge and a gun on my side and go down the road with red lights on anymore, because law enforcement, I know with my son being in law enforcement, how much disrespect there are for you. You can go out and do your job, the court system sends these people right back out, you go do your job again, and it's disheartening to see this. So the court system's gonna have to beef up the way that we deal with it. But going back to the 185,000 you're talking about, and you said that's 13, so you're at the half of your budget cycle.
Yeah, the county as a whole is at the.
185,000 is for, you're trying to implement this now?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay. So, and I wasn't part of the pay study. And the pay study came out, and it was gonna save Macon County and all their employees, and everybody knew what the pay grades were gonna be and the steps that were in place and I'm totally against a blanket pay scale. I can't, I mean, it's unfair to people that go above and beyond their call of duty. But you know what? You can't get paid for that when you're in a blanket pay scale. And there's no, I believe in merit pay. But number one, I saw it in Highlands. They raised their pay up to attract more people, Well, then when the other cities and the counties started paying more, that some of those same people left to go get more money.
Sure, it's a revolving door.
It is, and it's on the taxpayers' backs. The taxpayers can't, they can't recover from this. I mean, and so the next thing you know, we're going to attract more people into this county because of pay, and then the people that's going to job them, if they're going to hop around, they're going to do it regardless. So if somebody lives in Macon County and Clay County decides they're going to pay more than Macon County, and if you think that $1 or $1.50 an hour is going to save the world and you're driving all the way to Clay County, you've lost your mind. And so when we do these studies, the studies is all inclusive. The studies are, what does the cost of living in Jackson County? What are the perks? Does every officer in your department have their own take-home card?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Detention does not, and admin doesn't. No,
Right.
sir.
Sworn
Okay.
deputies.
Sworn.
So sworn deputies all have take-home cards, so they have no cost to them to come to and from work. And all this other, I'm not against it. I mean, there's not enough money out there for me to do your job. But somewhere along the line, when you're in service, you're serving others. And how do you do that? How do we get where you want to be without taking from the other people that can't give anymore?
But
I mean,
we have to stay competitive within the market, just like you and your business. You can't pay all your people less than every other, same company as you around and expect to have the best employees. And people aren't in today's time staying in the county. I know you're saying you're Macon County. I had lunch with some officers yesterday. We went to another agency, and I didn't realize that two of these other officers that work for other agencies in Jackson County live in Macon County, because it's been, and the recruitment's not like, I had to take 8 months. I worked 8 months part-time before a full-time position come open. Now we have full-time positions, a lot of agencies do all the time. So a lot of the agencies is when, if you live in a surrounding county, you can drive your car home. So we have officers that live in, Macon County that work for
Swain, Jackson, Bronson
things like
City,
that.
the Tribe.
And, I talked to these officers yesterday, great guys, but they're making more money in their current job, even though they're a Macon County resident, because we can't pay what this other agency does. So I feel like it's a disservice to the county. We lose out on good candidates because, most of ours go to BLET and here at SEC. They have a small pool. When I went to BLET in 1997, we had to pay our own way. You had to go pay your own way, come out and apply for jobs because everybody wanted to be the, police back then. Nowadays, you don't see candidates out here rarely that aren't already being paid because you're having to do so much to recruit them and get the best candidate for Macon County. And I hate pouring money, because it's not just the initial pay, but when we promote people to detectives or sergeants and things like that, we're paying for training throughout their entire career. And I hate losing them to other places, but they have to be loyal to their family. I mean, we love them to be loyal to the county, but their family comes first.
Yes,
And
sir.
I hate putting
So,
a lot
truth of the
money-
matter is, people are trying to make a decent living regardless of what field they go into. I've been down there to the jail. I see what these guys got to deal with. And honestly, as long as we can fit this in the budget, I support this 100%. It's not an easy job what you guys have to do. People don't understand what y'all got to take home and deal with. And then when you go down to the detention center, for those conditions, that's a really hard job to do.
They're
For
getting
that
spit
pay.
on, assaulted, urine.
That is an
feces.
extremely difficult
Yeah.
job to do for that pay. So I'm just letting you guys know, for me, myself personally, I support this because that's crazy, especially if you look at Jackson County for what they're paying over there. And I know we're always complaining about money, 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 but we can't keep good workers if we're not paying them. It's just not going to happen. And we need people in the detention center.
Absolutely.
We need officers. So that's just my opinion.
Other thing, Sheriff, I know, and I'm not telling you how to run your department, you were elected by the people to run your department, so, but I know in Michael's, job, the sheriff there requires all of his deputies to work the detention center.
Yeah.
they have to work based on his.
Is that New Hanover or Brunswick?
New Hanover.
New Hanover.
And so, you know, if you're lacking people, I mean, I don't want to get internal in your business, but my concern through this whole process, and I've already heard from another department that their department is not making enough money. Well, it seems to me like this pay study that was done years ago is getting ready to be thrown out the window. Because your department comes in, we approve you to go outside that pay study. This other agency that says, we're not making enough money, then the pay study's obsolete. And how long it's been since the pay study, you know, through COVID years and everything else. I get it. I mean, we're all in this boat together, and we all need to make as much money as we possibly can to survive. But
It's hard to survive on 36,000 a year.
I understand 100,000%, but that is displayed. When you sign up for this job, it's displayed.
That's true.
Or
Yeah.
what you're gonna be paid.
But we have to have people to fill the position. I got ones open right now. Like I said, I got one guy that I put the PAF and it's gonna start on the 26th. I have 3 positions and nobody.
No applicants.
No
Yeah.
qualified candidates,
Right.
you know? I mean, we get ones every now and then, but they won't pass the background or things like that, you know? You know. But it's, you know, so we have to have qualified candidates, and that's what brings them in. And I understand about the detention as well. The chief deputy and I discussed that today about using road deputies to do transports and court, because we're having to bring prisoners over all the time, you know, and our courts are increasing. But what we run into is we're having to bring them in on their days off, and that costs us time and a half overtime. So whatever their hourly rate is, we got to pay them time and a half per county regulations, or, you know, state regulations on overtime. So we're going to have to, it's either ask for a little pay on one end, or we're going to have to ask for more overtime to pay these positions.
When you're paying overtime, if you pay overtime and you put on a new deputy, the overtime is minimal compared to what that new deputy costs. Because then the benefit package kicks in and everything else.
Well, we're not talking a new deputy. We're just
Well, I know,
talking about
I'm
up
just-
and.
But he was talking about.
Yeah.
And so, but I agree, you guys need to be paid fairly. But where I'm at with this, and I'm gonna tell you perfectly straight up, we're in the middle of a budget year. And we've turned people down that's come into this board asking for additional funds. And I think it's unfair to the other people that has come in and asking for money, and we've turned them away.
Thank you, sir.
Let me ask you a couple questions. How many vacancies do you currently have, department-wide?
We have 4.
Four
all in
in-
detention.
all in detention.
With the caveat of one's in the hiring process.
Mhm.
We just turned a
PAF
PAF
in,
into
yeah.
them, so.
So the
But then I have 3
detention-
with no potential candidates.
Detention's where the immediate.
That's where the immediate need is,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, yes.
And that's why we're looking at, you know, the larger jump and getting them on the payroll.
Yeah.
Commissioner Breeden and I have had lengthy conversations about this step process. I mean, is that an easier fix? And I know that's a very large internal conversation, but, you know, is that a fix?
I can answer part of that.
Okay.
We've actually, I'll be the first one to tell you that the step process, especially when you go between grades, you get promoted within and you give credit for service, it's very difficult to calculate. So we've actually already been looking at a way for service credit to make that a lot easier to understand, a lot more equitable across the board. So that's coming. We've played with some different processes for that to see how it plays out with all circumstances. And the steps are, your steps are really designed, they're designed to give you a 30-year career within a grade. So it's hard to apply steps toward years of service. it's almost like you're talking about two different things. So it is complicated, and I will say that it's difficult to navigate, and it's hard when you put all that together for it to be apples to apples sometimes with certain people. So I will tell you that's the case. I guess the question I have, the 100, and Jonathan, you're really good with numbers, so don't get me wrong. The 185,000 or whatever that was, that's for half a year? That's from now going forward, okay?
Rough estimate, yeah. And we do have money because we have positions that we're short, so we have money we can put towards it. The only caveat is our medical expenditures for prisoners are more this year in the jail, so I'm gonna have to take some of that money and move it towards that. We've been working on measures like through the health department, working with them on the Medicaid system and stuff like that we've implemented.
Getting qualified inmates
Yeah.
signed up for Medicaid.
But,
Save
that's
taxpayers'
still
money.
having an issue, like I said, the medical expenditures, and that's something you can't predict.
That's an all-inclusive number that includes your FICA, your 401K,
That's
your
loaded.
all that's everything, so.
And that's rough. That's just a
We wouldn't know until, with the new steps aren't on the website anymore, we're going on last year's worksheets for that, but we put money in towards that, with the COLA raise that we had, but until we go into Munis and plug in, because each position, we'd have to go and plug in the pay grade for that, and Munis will give us the exact amount.
Is this really targeting kind of that entry level
It
the
is.
officer in the detention center, or is this kind of across the board?
It's across the board. It's for every employee minus me. I don't want it. Every employee minus me.
I feel like, and I'm not the best in law enforcement, but the compression is really at that, these lower numbers, you know what I mean? Not trying to step on any of the
Yeah.
upper enders, but really it's
Yeah.
the people that are starving are the ones getting $350 a week on a take-home paycheck. That's who's hurting.
That's tough.
You can't raise a family at that. But I don't know. I mean, it translates to what, 360, 70,000 a year. I mean, is this coming up in our next budget, Warren Steps, or is this something that's?
We were planning on having some conversations about our salaries and our benefits and trying to tie it all together, and obviously we work at your direction, so you tell us when and what you want done. We will put the pencil to the paper and see on our end.
I mean, I don't really have any problem putting immediate numbers on those detention officers to try to help that right there. And I feel like if we have a comprehensive, pay study coming up, but, I mean, some of these baseline salaries scare me. As far as the rest of the department, I wouldn't mind to see
And I
more.
think you also have to keep in mind that now the detention officers you can, but these deputies, you can't just hire anybody. I mean, these guys have to be
It's a
certified.
process.
They gotta, you gotta go through BLET, you gotta do all those things. So I think, for me, I mean, we've talked about the pay study, we've talked about the steps, or the grades. But I think, after we get through this, I think as a whole, we need to address our whole system. Because, I just feel like we're missing some opportunities there, especially with the steps, to make sure that everybody's kind of on a level playing field. And, but if we've got it, I would support this. I think it's necessary. I think when you look at these numbers, like you said, it's kind of scary to see what people are trying to survive on.
So you say you have the money to do this now, and by the lack of,
Well, we've got around 90 or $100,000 we could probably spare,
okay,
I would say.
I mean, I don't want to overspeak, okay? Let me be frank about it. There's probably nobody on this little table here that supports law enforcement more than me. It's no secret I'm married to it. However, if you want us to do it, I think that's great. I would maybe recommend giving Warren direction to give us, HR trying to look, because you're gonna throw off everybody's pay scale. Maybe look at breaking sheriff's department off and having their own pay scale, if that's something you're gonna do.
Well, that's where I was going with my comment, because I think that when we're talking about people that have to have a certification, that we have to go out and recruit and hire,
But I
whether
think
that's.
if you don't do something like that, you're gonna set up the whole entire county to come up here and ask you those things. I'm not trying to misspeak.
Yeah, but we've got openings. Those folks in
Oh, I
other
completely agree with you.
agencies
Like,
can.
you do what you're doing, it passes, I'm great. I also took an oath, and I have a responsibility to check numbers. And it makes me a little uncomfortable to sit here, unless you're gonna say, if it's in their budget, do it, otherwise use this pot of money. That's the direction I think we would need. That's all I'm gonna say. Like I said, if this is what you support, you don't have a problem with us, we'll do it. But I just think we need clear direction. This is the first time we've seen it. I don't know if HR's seen it, but like number-wise, I would really like to run them. If you're good with it, give us direction.
I mean, that's my opening statement was, I'm very much supportive of all emergency services. But I said that the pay study was the entire county. Maybe it's time we do another pay study for the whole county. How many, Sheriff, I've been wanting to ask you this. Since you took office, how many new positions have you hired?
5?
5, okay.
Yeah, around five,
We've been
yeah.
keeping our budget flat.
Yeah.
I get it. So we've had growth in the sheriff's department. And it's, I mean, I get it, but I think it's wrong for the rest of the county employees. I think it's wrong for the taxpayers, for one department to ask for additional funds when I know that we're gonna be bombarded by other agencies in this county and present this to me on a night with no idea what was coming. I mean, I hate to feel like, I'm not against you guys, I'm not against anybody, but I just don't think it's not fair. And my support would be to give them direction and bring this back at a later date to see exactly what we need to do and how we're gonna do it for everybody. I know that all these other counties, COVID ruined a lot of things. And people are struggling. I mean, back before 2015, I had 50 employees. I have 0 now. Nobody wants to work. So I can't compete against the county. Why would you go to work with me? I don't have benefits. And so,
We're hiring, John.
yeah.
Come on.
Come on. $185,000 and put it up there 100%.
Start you out at the a wonderful price of $36,699.
No way.
Put him in the detention center.
That's right.
Hey, I feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't mind to have a month to look at this. Maybe we can put on the agenda for next month, let Warren and some of our staff check it out. But I feel like, I feel like you've kind of got a split board here, and I think you do have support. I think I'd feel better, letting it kind of settle a little bit, and come back and see us next month.
All right.
So what do you think?
So let me make sure we're clear. You want us to look at the whole proposal? You want us to focus
Well-
on the entry, detention, and/or deputies, or
That's a good point, Warren. I mean, gentlemen, I don't want to
or
speak.
the whole
Yeah,
thing?
just give us some options, look at the whole thing, look
Yeah,
at
give us some
the entry
options.
level.
I think it's important to know what the future costs are gonna be. But I know personally, just from what we were dealing with, their detention officers need some money, like I'm not.
I
No,
agree.
we're
I
in
agree.
complete
I-
agreement. There's no doubt.
So I think we need to, I just wanna make sure it's there.
No, there's no
But I'm
doubt.
glad you brought that up, because I think it's a good opening for us to start looking at some other things, like breaking some of these departments out, law enforcement, EMS, maybe even environmental health or environmental services, because you have to have certifications, you've got to go through certain.
Sure.
I'd like to see this,
You gotta
Sheriff.
have these things, so I think it might be a good idea for us to start.
And some departments, the demand on the workforce in that department is very demanding. But it doesn't matter whether your department is demanding or not demanding. You're on the same pay scale. It's just that blanket pay scale, to me, just don't settle. Because I'm
Stuck
gonna
on
tell you, we have
Siemens.
great employees.
And I just want it to be known, his number is probably spot on. You're not
Yeah.
gonna find anybody that does it better.
No, I
knows his
I
numbers.
agree.
So that's not a stab, I would prefer to look at it. So I think if you come
I'm
up
glad
with.
to work with you all, and I think we can do it all within Munis by going in each one of our positions and changing the pay grade, and then that will give you the numbers.
And to answer your question, yes, it does help that you put it toward that Munis scale, because that makes it a whole lot easier on us on the back end, so everything works out. So, yes, to answer your
We can
question,
get
yes.
this done by next month.
We will have you some information by next month,
Yes,
yes.
I think we can get you good numbers.
Munis good
I'll be at your office at 8 in the morning.
on it, I think,
No,
about if Tammy's okay.
76 degrees.
Plugging in the numbers to give us a figure.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. You have the adjustment on the consent agenda. Any other adjustments? Here, motion by Commissioner Breeden. Got it. Here, a motion by Commissioner Breeden.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sherrill. Any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Tammy. All right. Appointments. Eric, you ready for appointments tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
4 seats, Consolidated Health Board.
And actually, we only have, we're voting for one because the 4 seats would involve the professionals that we don't have applicants for. So we have one at-large seat, and we have a total of 6 applicants. Those are Richard Brady, Philip Gibson, Mark Hen, H-E-H-N, Lindsay Henderson, Deborah Prince, and Monica Severn. So you're voting for one. I'm trying not to lick, I learned that.
Thanks, sir.
Oh, John's man. Thanks, sir.
I've always been good at multiple choice. You had to create somebody.
It's Phil Sherrill.
That's, I'm already there, but.
Okay. Danny Antoine is Mark, is it Hine? Hine. So one for Mark Hine with Danny Antoine. Josh Young has a vote for Lindsay Henderson. John Sherrill has a vote for Mark Hine. Gary Shields has a vote for Lindsay Henderson. And Barry Breeden has a vote for Mark Hine. I think that's 3-2. Is that your calculation? All right, so just need a motion approving the appointment of Mr. Mark Hine.
Motion by Commissioner Breeden.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sherrill. All in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Ms. Tammy, 5-0. All right, the Community Advisory Committee.
Oh, no. May I ask a question? So that fills the general public on that board, correct?
That, Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, we now have the general public fulfilled on the Consolidated Health Services Agency Board. We are still looking, for anyone listening, we're looking for a optometrist.
A social worker and a psychologist.
So is it time for me to resign from my position?
Yes. Right, if he, this is his, this would fulfill his resignation spot, is that right?
That is my understanding. If you wanted to wait till the January meeting so that we can verify that and make sure that that's correct, the
that's
January 27th meeting.
That's fine. Okay.
Does that mean John has to go?
But if that is the case, then when I get there, I will be a non-voting member at that meeting.
You have been reappointed to that board, And the first meeting for that new board is January the 27th, so.
All right, I'll be there. Okay, thank you, Chairman.
All right. All right, Community Advisory Committee, one open seat.
I mean, I don't think I have that ballot. Do I?
There's not a ballot. If you all recall from, I think it was the November meeting, and I put the description in your packet, this is that group, the committee that works with the long-term care facilities and making sure that patients in those facilities are getting adequate care. And they have to go through that state training. They have to then be approved by not just the folks at the state, but the folks in the region. And it is just, that general statute says that the commissioners have to bless that. So there is one person, Ms. Allen, who has completed that process and has been, we've been asked to appoint her to one of those seats.
All right. I hear a motion by Commissioner Sherrill, second by Commissioner Breeden. Any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your right arm, state aye for the record. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Ms. Tammy, let the record reflect a 5-0 vote, please. All right, that wraps up appointments. Do we have a need for a closed session?
I don't believe I have one.
All right. All right, looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Breeden, second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor, please state aye. Aye. It was 7:26, and I was trying to show you my phone, and then